Thank you very much for logging on to attheraces.com. We're going to have a look at the 2-year-old Colts now. 4 big races, of course, at the Royal Meeting for the youngsters. The Coventry Stakes, the Windsor Castle, the Norfolk and the Chesham, all really intriguing individual contests. Jason Weaver with me to look at them. Jason, is it right, Jason? The Coventry seems to have emerged as the really prestigious race amongst the cluster of really good 2-year-old races at the meeting.
Without question. You've only got to look at the entries, and you even do find some horses who, you know, that people will actually know that 6 furlongs is possibly their best distance, and they'd love to go for the Coventry, but they know that they're going in against the absolute strongest batch possible, and so they'll take that risk of coming back down to 5 and go for the last race on the card, of course, listed contest, the Windsor Castle, and they'll say, look, we can't cut it with the big boys, but we may have a squeak just down in that, which makes that a very strong division as well. But this is the one that everybody wants.
Yeah, indeed. And favourite for the Coventry Stakes has been for a little while is Power, Aidan O'Brien's charge. Aidan, as you would imagine, he's got stacks and stacks of entries in the Coventry Stakes. Some of his really great winners have won this race en route to much, much better things. And just about everywhere you look down the entries, Jason, there is a potential star. There are loads of really nice horses here. We'll look at Reply, for example, very shortly, again from the powerful Aidan O'Brien yard. Very, very difficult to work out a pecking order, but we are going to try by firstly having a look at Power and Tough as Nails, having a right old set to the other day at the Curragh. This was, for 2-year-olds, they delivered a fantastic race this day, Jason.
Yeah, Power was dropping back in trip down to 5 furlongs, so he looked beat at one stage, just about now underneath Shamey Heffernan, as Tough as Nails came to take him on, but he was able to keep on going. He has ground out a great victory here. You've got to love his attitude, John. He was a little bit more impressive than this, of course, on his debut. He's 2 from 2. 6 furlongs is going to be seem in such a better light. But from a training point of view, well done to Aidan O'Brien. He's seen the opportunity, known what class he's got, just got that extra gear to be able to get away with the drop down to the minimum. Whereas at the flip side of the coin, you've got Tough as Nails, who looks as if the Norfolk is just absolutely tailor-made for him.
Yeah, I wouldn't be a bit surprised if those two both play big parts in a couple of the big races.
Yeah, I think that we'll see Power, hopefully, in the Coventry, and Tough as Nails, Norfolk.
Yeah, really, really nice efforts from both of them there. Now let's have a look at another of Aidan's runners called Reply, who was seriously impressive at Guineas weekend at the Curragh. Only its second start, given a really positive ride, and really delivered. Jason came home clear.
Yeah, again, Shamey Heffernan in the saddle. He was third to a pretty decent type in Requinto. That was up at Cork over 5 furlongs the month before. He's improved since his last run, showed plenty of pace, and you know, I think that there was a little bit of dig in the ground on this occasion. There had been rain just before the meeting, so he was able to get his toe in. I don't know if that is... We've only seen him on a couple of occasions, John. I don't know if that's a required as far as he is concerned. So with slightly quicker conditions, I don't know.
It's been very interesting, Jason, to note the money that's come for certain horses over the last few days, and there's certainly been plenty about for Barry Hills, his Haydock winner, Mesmar, who, you know, he's done all that's been asked of him, Jason. An impressive winner on his only start. He's a player, isn't he?
Yeah, Barry's... He very, very rarely... You know, we've been talking about it now because it's just happened. William Haggis has not been running horses at the highest level unless he thinks they've got a genuine chance. He doesn't just throw them in there. And I think whenever you see one of Barry's, especially that it's been supported as well, makes you sit up and take notice. I've found, though, the value option with a lot of Barry's runners in the big races is when you've got... This one's already broke his maiden. When you've got them when they finish second or third to some other good horses and he goes and reopposes and they're 25, 30 to 1, I think you can have a little swing at them each way. So, respected.
Definitely. Always respected. A McShannon juvenile, and Gatepost has really made an excellent start to his career. Gatepost first caught our attention in a little race at Folkestone He won well this day, and he really showed subsequently as well at York that this wasn't a fluke and that he's a good, smart youngster.
It's a pretty quick time, this, John. They were just outside the minute on his racecourse debut. A lot to like about him. I don't think he quite handled the track, to be honest. He danced from one lead to the other as he came down the straight. Spencer never really having to get into overdrive. And of recent seasons, Mick Shannon, when he first started training, we expected theirs to win first time out. As the years have gone on, I don't think he's quite as hard on them for their initial experience. So when they do win first time, it's a good pointer. And a lot to like about the way he knuckled down and got on with it at York.
Yeah, indeed. He was very impressive there. I saw him at close quarters at York, Jason. You're there all week, of course, at Royal Ascot. He's got the most horrific scar on his hindquarters, obviously where he got his name from. He's obviously had an argument with the fence along the way. But
doesn't seem to stop him, hasn't seemed to slow him down whatsoever.
Him at all, has it?
And for an owner who's had or got so many horses in training, wouldn't it be good for him to have a winner, a decent winner? We see him winning all the time at Wolverhampton and Kempton and Lingfield. I think it'd be nice to see him have a big winner.
It would indeed, yeah. And it'd be nice to see Peter Chappell-Hyam amongst the winners as well. He unleashed potentially a really nice 2-year-old called Saminder at Yarmouth. And this run came in the middle of May. I've got reservations about how strong the race was, Jason.
Yeah.
But it was an impressive-looking winner, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the second, Pickle Pelican, came out. I think he was a well-odds-on shot to win at Brighton, and he just didn't run a race at all. I actually interviewed Peter after this. He said that he liked him a lot. He hadn't done a great deal with him. He, is going to target Royal Ascot, the July meeting, where he turns up. It'll be the right spot. Peter's not one for bigging up his horses. The way he talked about him, he thought he was sharp.
Yeah, well, he looked at that day, didn't he? And it just might be where the form is deceptive there. It might just be the winner's really good and the others much of a muchness. Let's hope for Peter's sake that is the case with Saminder. Can I move on, Jason, to a horse I really, really like? His name is Bannock, and he beat the much-touted and disappointing Magic City at Windsor before, I thought, one of the most unlucky losers of the whole season in the National Stakes. I really like his attitude, Jason.
He's a lovely horse. He is strong, ready, and still got a ticket to improve. Magic City, after what was an awesome display on his racecourse debut at Newbury, he hasn't come up with the goods. Let's hope he can bounce back. But I tell you what, there's been an awful lot of money spent on him, hasn't there, as far as chasing to get the losses back. Bannock, for me, behind Pyman's Theory that you mentioned at Sandown, was not Frankie Dettori's greatest moment, we have to say. He got in. All right, I know you need a helicopter to get out sometimes, but he'd been ridden more aggressively than that in the past, and I was quite surprised that he wasn't in a more favourable position.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's where he slipped up, really. He bounced out of the stalls fine, but then took him
decided to sit and take back on him or whatever. And all right, we know they're going up the hill, and he might well have said he thought that they were going too quick, but that didn't appear to be the case with Pyman's Theory.
Yeah. Bannock, again, he's got all sorts of entries, could run over 5 or 6.
Yeah.
I'd be quite happy to see him charge up that hill over 6, to be honest.
I wouldn't be surprised to see him to get Silvestre de Souza up on his back. That seems to be the way that the Johnson camp are leaning at the moment, and we see him take his chance in the Coventry.
Yep, definitely. So that's Bannock. Let's take a look then at the Coventry Stakes prices. Power 4-1. We've mentioned the well-backed Mesmar, and we've had a good chat about Gatepost and Reply as well. Commissar these days is with Godolphin, isn't he, Jason?
Yep.
And he's done great things for Paul Cole earlier in the season. He's another one very much in the mix.
He certainly is. I was very much taken with Saminder. I'll be interested to see if he does take his chance. Like you say about Bannock, I think that he will probably take a little go in this. He's around a 20-1 shot. Probably Commissar is too big a price at 14-1. Saminder I like a lot. Commissar I also like.
Yeah. And of course, the Americans have taken us by storm in the last couple of years. 2 years ago, that unforgettable double at the meeting by Wesley Ward. So I think it'll be folly to disregard Wesley's runners. We certainly won't do that, Jason. Interestingly, before we have a look at one of them, he's got a little satellite yard at Chantilly now, hasn't he? And prepping them really seriously for the big meeting.
He has, rather than he thought for the horses, they were coming in from Keeneland and wherever, where the mornings can be quite mild. He has brought them across, and he thought that bring him straight to England, knock them back a little bit. So having a base in France where he thought that it would just be a little easier on them to acclimatise before they then came over for Royal Ascot, and it has been working the Oracle. He certainly mopped up a couple of the juvenile races over in France just recently.
Yeah, I've been told by Nick Godfrey in the weekend of this week that a horse called Everyday Dave is a youngster to watch out for the Royal Meeting from Wesley's Yard. We have seen another of Wesley's runners, of course, at Folkestone early in the year when Gentleman's Code, ridden by Mike Smith, won a little race. I must admit, Jason, I was terribly lazy thing to do. I just dismissed this automatically as a bit of a nonsense run, but I understand the runner-up, Bear Behind, from Tom Dascombe's, is really well regarded. So this just might be form to take a second look at.
Well, let's just put it into context. Gentleman's Code, in a 3-runner field, has run down the exact same strip as Gatepost on exactly, or what was described as exactly the same ground. Whereas Gentleman's Code, his time was fast by just shy of a second. They clocked 58.7 down there. Now, for an American colt over ridges with an American rider on board, to come down there that quick and, of course, beat Bear Behind only by a length and 3/4, and I was the same as you. Oh, that wasn't that good. That wasn't that good. He came out. He beat a really good type that they fancied and backed of William Haggis's at Nottingham when he won since then. So it's been given a boost. And the time, fully, 2 seconds at least quicker than that of Gatepost.
Yeah, he's looking pretty certain to go to the Windsor Castle, I think. Now,
I think he'll definitely take his chance in there. Having not been next to him in the flesh, he did look the type who was going to improve. And Wesley Ward, let's hope that there's more gate speed and we see some of that brilliance that we saw out of that filly that he brought over.
Yeah, indeed, yeah. And we're just going to chat about another couple of horses that have caught our eye before we move on. Casper Netzer, for example, in the Woodcote at Epsom, everything seemed to go wrong. I'm convinced he's better than that 4th place in Jason. I
was disappointed, and then I bumped into Alan McCabe just round by the unsaddling enclosure, and he said to me, Murtagh said, no sooner had they come out of the gates, he was taken completely out of the race. He was out of it, and I suppose that's the difference, having someone like Murtagh on your side. When his chance was gone, he hasn't beat him to within an inch of his life to try and get back into it or finish, a half a length closer. Yes, he's given him every opportunity to come home and run home strongly. He's much, much better than the form we saw in the Woodcote.
Yeah, so watch out for him if he pitches up as well again. Coventry Stakes perhaps, or the Windsor Castle, looking as though he'll take his chance. And we haven't mentioned an awful lot about the horses who might just excel over slightly further, not forgetting the Chesham Stakes over 7 furlongs, of course. And I don't know about you, Jason, but I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Lilbourne Lad has a quick reappearance, because he won the other day in the Rochestown Stakes at Naas, and he won really impressively, I thought, and I just wouldn't be a bit surprised if he zips out again.
He was mightily impressive. What was the winning distance in the end? Something like 6 lengths, wasn't it, in the end?
Look at the way he opened up.
From what they thought were pretty decent types. Did this catch the team, Hannon, a little bit on the hop as well? Was it a big run out of nowhere?
Don't know, Chase. I don't know. Yeah, because, of course, at Newmarket he'd been surprisingly turned over, but that was much more like it. And I just feel he's certain to stay, Jace. I think he's certain to get the trip.
Yeah. Team Hannon, let's hope that they do have a big say again in the juvenile contest. At least we know that they'll be represented all round. He looks live. He's coming back. It's just one of them. He has run well, he's run not so well when it's been expected. A little bit, his profile's a bit up and down at the moment.
Is there any one of these 2-year-old colts, Jason, that you are particularly looking forward to see?
Yeah, most definitely Saminder. If he goes for Peter Chapelheim, the way he talked about him afterwards, Peter can really get one ready for the big day. Power's been at the head of the market for a long time, hasn't he? Was very much taken with his ability to come back down to 5 furlongs and beat a good horse in Tough as Nails.
Looks a strong bunch of 2-year-old colts. I'm sure you'll agree. Keep it right here throughout Royal Ascot on attheraces.com.